up, Jimmy, man? How you doing? Oh, man, it's crazy. We need a revolution in this country. We need to transform this country, man. I'm tired of seeing brothers and sisters die in the streets. Man, we have to do something. We need a revolution, man. There's no other way. We need a revolution.
People take it to the streets. So much protest, no relief. My sister's looking for some peace. Too many of my brothers deceased. No justice and no peace. Congress trying to impeach. For you, for you, for you, for you. We need for you. Revolution for you. We need for you. Revolution for you. We need for you. Revolution for you. Jimmy said America is changing. Look around, the virus is raging. Too many lies and disinformation.
One mic will be live
America
in
is
2
changing.
minutes.
After 40 years, we're still here. We're still here. No justice and no peace. People taken to the streets. So much protest, no relief, no relief, no relief. For you, for you, for you. We need for you. Revolution for you. We need for you. Revolution for
One mic live in 1 minute.
we need for you. Revolution for you. We need for you. We need for you. We need for you. Revolution for you.
One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice.
One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice.
Welcome to the One Mic, One Voice show, building the collective conscious. Show is created to give space where your voice, ideas, and informed opinions can be heard, appreciated, and debated. I am Michael Eric Owens in the One Mic studio, folks. Oh, man. I'm excited about this podcast today. Comes from an idea from a good friend of mine, Brother Arthur, younger. I've been talking a lot about being woke over the course of the last year or so. And he had the suggestion, why don't we dive into this thing called wokeness? And I might ruffle some feathers today, but that's okay. Because I think sometimes we need to be challenged. We need to be put in an awkward position, an uncomfortable position, in order for us to truly embrace what we do believe and what we don't believe. But over the course of, the last couple of years, you've heard this term being tossed around, woke. And I even see it on social media a lot. And we're going to be talking about not just woke, but we're going to be talking about social justice as well as activism. I even see nowadays that people on their social media profiles, they give themselves the label activists. I've never considered myself to be an activist. I've never. I'm not big on titles anyway. Anyone that knows me is aware that you're in those meetings and people say, "Why don't you introduce yourself?" And you have those folks that they give they go all the way back to birth and lay out everything that they have accomplished, and I just simply say I'm Michael Owens, and that's it. So I'm not big on titles. But again, I'm not going to be critical if you feel bold enough to call yourself an activist. But I think it's something that I want to dive into today that goes deeper into this idea of being woke, what an activist is and is not. And so let's begin by simply sharing a definition, because I believe we need to have a foundation in which we can build upon. And so this idea of woke, having or marked by an active awareness of systemic injustices and prejudice, especially those related to civil rights and human rights. Having or marked by an awareness, but it says active awareness. We'll get into that in a minute. But an awareness of systemic injustices and prejudices. And I think it's important to pause right there, because the definition itself implies some sort of action on your part for the individual. And this is what I've been talking about for months, about folks that are so-called into the struggle now. But this idea of being aware of systemic, not just aware that something is wrong, but aware of systemic injustices. Now, none of us are born into this life where we are aware of systemic injustices. We have to learn those, or we have to be exposed to those. So either you were exposed and through your experience you came to learn those, you did an investigation and you started reading and researching and you began to understand what systemic racism is and systemic prejudice is. Otherwise, you had to actively go out to find the information. And I think that's where a lot of folks that quote unquote call themselves woke have failed from the start, because you don't understand, in my opinion. And I'm not gonna paint every woke person with a broad brush, um, or ally with a broad brush. But what I'm going to say, there is a majority. I can even tell by the way you articulate your understanding of the struggle that you lack knowledge regarding the struggle. Because you have to understand systemic injustices. You have to understand the narrative, the true narrative of America. You have to understand true American history. You have to understand the economics of America and how that developed over time through forced labor. You have to understand how the native peoples were, man, it's a genocide on them. You have to understand how land was taken. You have to understand how treaties were broken. You have to understand quite a bit to be woke. And this is just the awareness. This is not acting upon the awareness. A woke person is aware of systemic injustices and prejudices. They know it. They've read it. They've studied it. They've embraced it in some form or fashion, whether it's through watching several documentaries or whatever. But somehow your awareness, because without that knowledge, you can't understand what the struggle entails. You can't understand where we're trying to go if you don't know where we've been. That's the key. And I think a lot of the passion and the outrage makes us think that we're woke, but you're not. You have been somehow, you know how you might be snoring and, somebody just rattled you a little bit and and you go right back. Yeah, you might have been startled, but are you truly woke? You see, this term woke, and this is something to my knowledge that Elijah says, why do you think what do you think of people who claim to be woke but continue to nap on the couch? What would you say to them? That's a great question, and I'm going to answer that question for you. Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. So hang in there. I'm gonna get to answering that question. And so doing my research, kind of looking at that, because again, I'm not one that is I'm not a term kind of guy. I don't toss terms around and labels around. But so I again, woke comes out of the Black vernacular. I found that to be interesting. Awake is often rendered as woke, as in I was sleeping, but now I'm woke. Woke is increasingly used as a byword for social justice. Again, it's out of the Black vernacular. Woke becomes part of a wider discussion it did back in 2014 following the shooting of Michael Brown. We know of that in Ferguson, Missouri. The word woke became entwined with the Black Lives Matter movement. Instead of just being a word that signals awareness of injustice or racial tension, this is the part that you really need to get. It became a word of action. So it moved from awareness to action. So learning all about systemic injustices and prejudice, people were moved to do something. So it's being woke is more than simply awareness. Like I said, some of us struggle to even get to awareness, right? That takes time and effort and dedication and commitment to learning, being aware of something in a very deep way, sort of an extra Jesus of the information that is out there from America's origin to its present, requires you to embrace it, the pain, the anguish, the setbacks, the all of the things that have oppressed black and brown people in this country. It takes a lot. How many of you, last week I talked about, many people were saying, I just can't watch the George Floyd. If you woke, you can watch it. Because you understand that being woke is more than simply being aware, but it's some quiet reaction, some action. So in other words, if George Floyd's family has to endure this, if I'm in this struggle with you and partnering with you, I'm not partnering with you just for the victory. I'm partnering with you in the pain. I'm partnering with you in the fear, in the vulnerability. I'm partnering with you in the dehumanization of black and brown folk in this country. That's why you're watching, because you are woke. You got to question. You got to question whether you're woke. If you get to the point, if you can turn it off, then you're not woke. If you can say, well, I'm just not going to deal with it today, you're not woke. Because you have to realize at that moment, you may feel that way. I feel that way sometimes. But you realize at that moment that there are people that have no other alternative. They have to deal with it because they're draped in black or brown skin. Right? So the word became entwined with the Black Lives Matter movement. Instead of being just a word for awareness, it became a word of action. Activists were woke and called on others to stay woke. Activists. I have a problem with if if you're already engaged. I like to use the word enlightened. You've heard me say this. Woke, woke implies that you were completely out of it. You were completely you just didn't lack, you had no knowledge of it. And with everything going on in our country, I find it hard to believe that there are people that lack that much knowledge. Well, let's define these terms that are intertwined with being woke. Arthur said, in my experience, people who I have come in contact with that claim to be woke, that word seems to be a fad to identify an era of a way to think of or feel on a certain topic. Yeah, it's the era. Yeah, I'm going to get to that fad too, that I believe Arthur's talking about. And that question that Eliza's talking about, what do we do? Arthur says they all seem to get their thoughts and feelings from the mainstream media too. Exactly. That's your motivating factor. That's because you don't know. You're not aware of the systemic injustices. Because the history and the narrative and the practices of white supremacy, that alone should be enough to motivate you. But for some, it took a murder. Yeah, I'm going to get to that here. So social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Simple. Social justice is it's a simple concept. You don't need to be a, philosophy student to understand social justice. I can break it down in even more layman's term. What you want for yourself, somebody else should also have that. I mean, you want to vote, the next person should be able to vote. You want a decent paying job, the next folks should be. You want health care, the next folks should be. You want a house, the next folks. I mean, whatever you want for yourself, whatever opportunity, whatever political expression, all of these things, folks, that's what social justice is all about. But let's break it down. Let's break it down this way. Okay. Saying, well, let me back up for a moment. Let me define activists. A person who campaigns to bring political and social change. Remember, I said there's some folks that on their profile they have activists. So what they're saying, I campaign, I make moves, I bring people together, I get engaged with, I'm working hard for political and social change in this country. Now, there's a whole lot of people talking, posting, giving their opinions. There's a lot of that. But are they actively engaged in bringing political and social change to this country, to their community, to their city, to their state? Actively. See, we have to distinguish between all of the fog that's out there, that everyone is making this final conclusion that this is what being woke is about. This is what an activist is about. No. Just because you're talking and you're giving your opinion doesn't mean you woke. Doesn't mean you are a social activist. That doesn't mean anything. I'm not speaking against that. Well, I think that is needed. But remember, having an awareness is a deep dive, right, into systemic injustices and prejudices. And then that awareness is moved to action. Action. And we're going to talk about what that action is. So, first of all, I think it's important, and I touched on this just a little bit. Saying I'm woke acknowledges that you were asleep. Saying that you woke, saying that you had no clue, that you were blind, that the scales were on your eyes, that the veil was over your face, that you had no clue. I don't know what's more dangerous, your cluelessness or social injustices. The very fact that you had slavery in this country, you had Jim Crow, you had convict leasing, you got mass incarceration, you got black bodies being spilled in the streets, not just now, that you have a history of lynching, of KKK intimidation, of white supremacy in this country, and you say to me, you had no clue? That is dangerous. Are you trying to say that you lived in such a bubble that you had no idea what black and brown people were going through? That you did not know the history? You didn't have to know the in-depth history of Native peoples, but you didn't know that their land was taken? You didn't know that they were slaughtered? You didn't know that Americans made treaties against them and broke every one of them? You didn't, what? You were that clueless that now all of a sudden, this epiphany, this awakening, now you see? Oh, yeah, I say shame on you. If you have went through school and graduated from college, and you want me to believe that you were completely unaware. Elijah says, I understand that voting for a turtle would have been better than Trump. However, why is someone like Biden, who claims to be woke, not doing anything else? Well, I mean, that's I think first of all, I would have to say, what is the expectations for Joe Biden? And you just saw where this Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to start this America's first racist caucus in Congress. We've always had racist people in Congress. Don't let anybody tell you that now we got some racist people. No, we've always had racist people in Congress. Matter of fact, that's why the Constitution says that black folks are 3/5 of a person. So let's get rid of that notion. But I think our expectations have to be realistic. He's one man. He's just a equal part of the government, contrary to what Trump tried to change the political structures of this country, the institutions, and he only gets it so far. This idea that Joe Biden would understand the depths and struggles of black and brown people in this country in such a way that he would be so burdened to stake his presidency on it, I think is a false way of looking at things. He's done some things that I have been impressed with. His diversifying of his cabinet, of course, his VP pick. He has been talking about criminal justice reform. I don't know if the expectation should be so high. I don't believe that our problems can be solved by government alone. I think we have a responsibility. While they have failed, so have we. But I think it would take a unique person, which you would get elected to office, so you couldn't even say this while you were running. But it would take a unique person to get up in the White House and focus on social justice issues historically that have plagued this country. Now, he's spoken out against what George is trying to do. But again, those are states' rights. And they're trying to pass a federal voting bill, the John Lewis bill, that is having trouble. So I would just say I think you have to lower your expectations, unfortunately, and realize that his limitations will prevent him from doing the serious work that needs to be done. That's what that would be my opinion on that, Eliza. But it's a great observation because we need a leader that makes social justice, injustices, prejudice, discrimination, sexism, xenophobia, all those things, attacks against the LGBTQ plus community, all those things need to be front and center. But unfortunately, you have a Congress that thinks otherwise. So, folks, listen, we're going to do this. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back, and we're going to get deep into this thing. Woke. Are you woke? Stay tuned. This is Michael Eric Owens, host of the One Mic, One Voice show. I want to give a shout out to all of our listeners all across the globe. Thank you for your undivided attention and for your conversation. You can catch us every Sunday on YouTube, 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can also catch us on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, on any one of those lovely, wonderful podcasting platforms you love to listen to. please always remember, you can change the world. It's your choice. This is Michael Eric Owens, host of the One Mic, One Voice show. Are you woke? We toss that term around so easily. We wear it as a badge of honor for some of us that are new to the struggle. But it's much deeper than that. It is much deeper than that. So I need for you to ask yourself this question as we go through the last part of this show. I want you to ask yourself the question: are you woke? Okay. The question is, as I go back to talking about being asleep, why were you asleep? What kind of world were you living in? How did you view minority peoples? How did you view their cry for justice? How did you understand their predicament prior to your conversion? I mean, this is the most important question is, did you not believe anything that black and brown people were telling you for generations? I mean, the literature, the dramatization of black bodies in front of dogs and fire hoses and bombings of black churches and police brutality and racial. I mean, did you not simply believe? Did you think for generations we were lying to you? Did that make it easier for you to ignore us? But now you're woke. And now you see it. And I'm going to say this. And I told you I was going to ruffle some feathers. But I'm going to say this. Don't think somebody's going to pat you on the back because you woke. Don't think somebody's going to throw a party because you say you are woke. Tell that to the folks that have been lynched. Tell that to the folks right now that's sitting on death row that are innocent. You see, your wokeness should come with a level of humility, not arrogance. Some of you call yourself woke, and now you want to lead the movement. You want to be up front. You want to be strategizing. Where have you been? No, you do not deserve a gold star because you finally recognize what we have been telling you for generations. Matter of fact, woke folks should apologize. That's the first thing you should do. You should apologize for your slumbering sleep. Come approach this thing, this struggle, with some humility. I'm tired of the arrogance. What have you done to be an activist? What have you done? Now somebody's going to say, now hold on, Mike. You're offending people that are part of the struggle now. Don't do that. Oh, don't do that now. Well, okay. I'm sorry if you are offended. But there is a long history of black and brown people, not just being offended, but being oppressed, murdered, marginalized. People that have went from birth to grave with only dreams unfulfilled. So no, approach this with a level of humility. What has awakened you? Which murder was it? Most folks will probably say George Floyd when they saw that. It was too much for them. Well, George Floyd is among the list of a lot of black and brown people that have been lynched publicly. If you knew that systemic injustices that exist throughout the history, you would know that George Floyd is just another number. Now, he's an important person, well loved by his family, valued. He mattered. His life mattered. Everything about him, he was human, but he was a statistic. It took something horrific as a murder to arouse you. What does that say about you? Being woke is an active state of being. According to the definition, instead of just being a word that signals awareness of injustice or racial tension, it became a word of action. In other words, you had to do something. But what does woke look like? Well, let's start by saying what it doesn't look like. Now I'm going to get to Eliza's question. It's not simply awareness. It's not trendy. Yeah, there we go. Arthur brought that out. It's not trendy. It's not the new fad. It's not a t-shirt or a hashtag. It's not your pet project. No, being woke is none of that. So, I know you got your BLM t-shirt and, you know, your medallion and your hat and all of that, but that's not being woke. That may be a symbol. That might be aesthetically pleasing to a lot of people, but that's not being woke. In other words, you have to do something. Being woke is all about action, sacrifice, and cost. I want you to write those three things down: action, sacrifice, and cost. Yeah. Action. Number one, it means you're active. As simple as that is. You're engaged. You're posting. You're speaking out. You're engaging politicians and local leaders. You're marching and you're protesting. You're speaking out against social injustices regardless of who is promoting it. This is where I might lean into what it's going to cost you. But let's stay right here for a moment. See, a lot of people are in fear of speaking out. It's cool when you can hide behind your keyboard. Lisa says those of us who are truly woke and have been awake for many, many years agonize inside, and we are in deep pain and anger and a lot of hopelessness. Summing up my point, woke. Yeah. Regardless of who is doing the ill thing toward black and brown people. Could be your mama, your daddy, your son, your cousin, your uncle, your employer. Mm. It requires action on your part. You just can't sit behind your keyboard. You can post something, that's cool. But that's not being woke. It requires you to do something. It requires for you to bring about some effectual change. When you are saying that you are an activist who campaigns to bring about political and social change, and you just sitting behind your keyboard giving your opinion, what are you changing? You ain't changing nothing. You're preaching to the choir, and that's good because, frankly, I need to hear from some folks that see the world like I do. That's refreshing, but it's not being woke. It requires sacrifice. It requires time, money, and commitment. It requires your time and your money. How many of you are given to social organizations out here fighting the good fight? Not many of you are given to one mic, one voice. I can tell you that right now. I'm on the microphone every week, trying to move the conversation, trying to engage people. Are you giving up your treasure, your time and your treasure? Oh, nah, Mike, you're going a little too far right now. Nah, I can't give up those things. I can give a little time. I don't know about the money thing. I'm kind of commit. You're not woke. It requires time, money, and commitment. Every person that's woke should be giving some type of financial support to a social organization out there. I don't care. It could be local. It could be the ACLU. It could be the Justice Fund. It could be whatever. If you are woke. Because those are the people that are on the front lines working. If you woke, you recognize that. NAACP, Urban League. There's organizations out there that are fighting this fight. If you woke, you would understand that. Time, money, and commitment. And it's also a sacrifice because it's a priority in your life. Now, this is where I'm gonna lose a lot of folks. Yeah, it's a priority. Making sure that the least among us has the same rights and privileges as every other citizen in this country must be a priority. It must be your priority if you're woke. Now, I'm not talking to folks that are not woke. None of this applies. If the veil is still over your eyes, the scale, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're walking around here saying you are an ally, you are woke, you are an activist, this applies to you. And if you can't do it, that's okay. You'll join the ranks of millions of people that can't do it because you're not made for it. You don't have it in you. You're not strong enough. You can't carry that heavy of a burden. So don't walk around here talking about you woke, that you're an activist, that you're an ally. This must be a priority in your life. It's also a sacrifice because there are many lonely days in this struggle. When you speak out and you're the only person at your job, that's a lonely space to be in. It's even lonelier when you know you should speak out and you don't. That's even worse because you're saving your own neck at the sacrifice of someone else. It is Sunday. The good book says there's no greater love than to lay down your life for your friend. So let me say this. There are lonely days when you stand alone or when you stand up, when you hear your quote unquote family members saying something and you that's lonely space to be in. But if you woke, you do it. If you're an activist, you do it. If you're an ally, you do it. If you don't have the courage to do that, then don't claim any of those labels for yourself. What is the cost? I'm not going to be much longer. I'm about to wrap this up. What is the cost? It will change, number one, the direction of your life. It will change the direction of your life. Anything that's a priority in your life shift direction. It's just like a career. You go to school, you change direction. So if social equality is a priority for you, it's going to change the direction of your life. Might change who you even hang out with. Might change the places that you go. Know that place has always got that Trump sign up on it? You don't get them your money no more. It will change the direction of your life. That's the cost, number one. Number two, you will lose family members and friends. You will lose. I guarantee you, you will lose family members and friends. That's how much it's going to cost you. Hopefully you won't lose all of them. But you're going to lose some. Because in this world where there is such a stigma on black and brown people, where racism has been woven into the fabric of our nation, I guarantee you, you have several in your family. Whether it's your parents, distant cousins, uncles, that hold racist views. And if you're woke, you can't stand for that. So it will cost you family members and friends. Those racial jokes that friends used to tell and the men jokes and all that. No, you don't go for that no more. Why? Because you woke. Because there's a priority in your life. Because you're an ally. Because you're quote unquote activist. You will be labeled as a radical, and even you hear even worse things said about you. Yeah. Radical. I've been called a radical so many times, I don't know. If I had $1, I'd probably be a millionaire. What does it mean to be radical? To tell the truth? Is the truth radical? Good book says the truth will set you free. It's actually liberating. It's not radical. The truth is liberating. What's radical is denying the truth. That takes a more radical stance than accepting it and being liberated, being free. That's the best thing about this quote unquote being woke, is because all of a sudden now you're free. You can see. The lies are no longer your guiding light. You have moved from the darkness into the light. And you see you have been liberated. But with liberation comes responsibility. You just can't go back to your old life. You can't be a double agent. You can't live with those folks that are saying racist things and held these views about black and brown people as if they're your friends, and somehow you telling yourself that your presence is going to help change them. That's a lie. You're trying to live in two worlds. You can't do that. The cost of being woke is you come out of that world. You confront and you depart. That's the price of being woke. Okay, another cost. They will attempt to silence you. Yeah, they will attempt to silence you, to ostracize you, to marginalize you. Whenever you speak up against social injustice, you're always going to be attacked. That comes along with the territory. Be thankful you're just being attacked. Be thankful that you're not being assassinated like Dr. King, Malcolm X, and others. Be thankful that you are among the group of those who are being attacked. You're being attacked for a reason. Because if the truth was accepted in our society, we would change. It is the resistance to change. It is white supremacy and the rule thereof that maintains this unequal society. It will also cost you. You might lose money, or even your career. Are you willing to sacrifice that? Are you really willing to lose, to be fired? Some of you can't even post stuff on social media because you're scared of what your company might say. Some of you are being monitored, and you know you're being monitored. You are being silenced, and you're afraid of losing money, treasure, career. You can't be woke if you're afraid of what it might personally cost you. Because if you woke, you understand the price that these people have been paying for generations. The price that they have literally paid in blood. Yeah. Because you've done your homework. You've studied. You've researched. You're clear on the black condition. You're aware. And now you're acting upon that awareness. And so regardless of what your personal sacrifice might come to, Heather Heyer. Remember her? That name comes to mind. Heather was the one that was ran over and lost her life in Charlottesville. She paid the ultimate price. Heather was woke. She was engaged. She was willing. Are you willing? That's the question. I know you're willing to say you're woke. I know you're willing to put activists on your social media. I know you're willing to call yourself an ally, but are you willing to pay the personal cost for the liberation of a people that have been oppressed since day one? And the last one, it's going to cost you. By some, you will be hated. In some instances, you might even be threatened with violence. I get hate mail quite often. It doesn't matter to me because they ain't woke. What else they gonna do? That's the only way they know how to respond. Is to eliminate, to silence, to intimidate. That's what they do. That's when the KKK marched through black neighborhoods and intimidated people not to vote. It's a tactic that they always use to intimidate you, to silence you. Why? Because you can't be actively engaged if you are afraid. And if you're afraid of losing something of value to yourself, if you're that selfish, if your money matters that much to you and your lifestyle and the group of friends you hang around with, your inheritance that you might get matters that much to you, then you can't be woke. You can't be woke. You know, there's a parable that Jesus talks about in the Bible about the rich man that came to him, and they had this conversation, and Jesus told him to sell everything and follow him. And the man walked away because he thought that was too much. You see, you will never make a difference if it's dependent upon how it affects you. The only way you will make a difference that affects other people is for you to be sacrificial. Dr. King was the best example. He didn't have to do what he did, but he did. And it cost him his life. You see, when we talk about being woke, it's much more than 4 letters. It's much more than a hashtag. It's more than a post. It's more than a t-shirt, or it's more than attending a rally. Being woke is a lifestyle change. It is part of who you are. It is you have been awakened, and now you see this new world in which you have to navigate through. But you're navigating through this world with different principles than you had when you were asleep. You're not as blinded as when you were asleep. You are culturally and racially competent. Matter of fact, your language and your approach and how you deal with people, it all shifts. It changes. Why? Because you are woke. You see now. I was blind, but now I see. And because of that, you are moved to action. It becomes a priority in your life. The empowerment of those who are on the outside. If you can't do that, you're not woke. And I would like to say the majority of folks that are claiming that they are woke, they're not. They're clueless. It's a fad. It's a thing. You know what? It's the flavor of the month. Their friends are doing it, and I'm right in there too. But they won't do the homework that is necessary to understand what it is that has aroused you. So do me a favor. Do me a favor. Share this podcast with someone that says they're woke. I want you to evaluate yourself. Because truly, if you are woke, nothing I said to you should have shocked you. We are in dangerous times. What did people think Biden was going to get in office and things were going to change? And what, we've had how many mass shootings in the last 30 days? We've had how many black men gunned down in the last couple of weeks? If all those people are woke, why are we not having change? Because they're not woke. When we all get woke, or as I would like to say, enlightened, then we will see change, because history will speak of us. Somewhere in the future, a scribe will reach down deep into the archives of our time, and what will she find? Will she discover that we overcame our differences? Will she find that out of many we became one. Or will she find that we solve nothing and remain a divided peoples? Yes, history will speak of us.
We can make a difference if we try. We can be the change that's in our lives. All we gotta do is work together. We gotta raise our children better. We gotta stop the hate and spread the love. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. Your choice.
This is Michael Eric Owens, host of the One Mic, One Voice show. I want to give a shout out to all of our listeners all across the globe. Thank you for your undivided attention and for your conversation. You can catch us every Sunday on YouTube, 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can also catch us on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, on any one of those lovely, wonderful podcasting platforms you love to listen to. Please always remember, you can change the world. It's your choice. Thank you for downloading the One Mic, One Voice show. Take a moment and subscribe and share. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform. Thank you for your continued support and for your voice. You can change the world. It's your choice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on the One Mic, One Voice show are not the views, thoughts, and opinions of our sponsors.